There is no let's deal with the rhetoric. At this point, I do think we have to have serious conversations around preparing for actual violence. People keep saying a civil war is coming. I would say a civil war is here.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Leftist Extremism. MSNBC's Tiffany Cross may perhaps be the most clueless individual ever seen. After opening her show this week by calling Donald Trump a series of insulting and dehumanizing names.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Cross Connection. I'm Tiffany Cross. Well, 45 has 99 problems, and the truth is definitely one. Mango Mussolini claims that he had a, quote, standing order to declassify documents. Now, that's not great news for the Velveeta Voldemort, which essentially makes him a wounded animal cornered. So we'll see how he continues to act out.
Later, in the same freaking segment, she discusses the risks of political polarization and violence because of dehumanizing people.
The number one domestic threat to this country, which is white supremacy, which a lot of these people belong to groups perpetuating such things.
Thanks, Tiffany. I think one of the main things that has really been a concern coming out of all this is the sort of narratives and the incitement to violence that's been coming out. And as we've seen around the world, several times, one of the first steps to violence that we see is kind of dehumanizing or otherizing a group of people, right?
Right?
Mango Mussolini, Velveeta Voldemort, wounded animal.
Oh, boy.
We need to be able to absorb different kinds of opinions. So I think there's a responsibility on politicians to remind all of us, citizens and communities, that we need to be able to have respectful, pluralist debate.
Yes, Cross's program is so dedicated to respectful debate and not inciting any violence.
There is no let's deal with the rhetoric. At this point, I do think we have to have serious conversations around preparing for actual violence. People keep saying a civil war is coming. I would say a civil war is here.
Of course, Cross feels her show and her network are completely not to blame for such hateful rhetoric.
It's not really rhetoric we can deal with. I mean, you have millions of people tuning into a propaganda network every night. And then, as if that were not bad enough, that's an extremist network itself. You have these fringe pop-up outlets, from OWN to Newsmax.
I do have to assume that Cross is like the majority of Americans who avoid watching MSNBC, especially her show. I mean, she can't even possibly watch herself, can she? The leftist media just continues to toss aside reporting facts, so their hands are free and able to pick up those shiny, sparkling Biden pom-poms for cheerleading.
Biden's winning streak.
President Biden has been racking up wins.
Racking up win after win.
This is a big, big win.
Big victory at the White House, a remarkable record.
It's all moving in Joe Biden's direction. He's got his aviators on.
Inflation Reduction Act, great name. Now for all of those who say, President Biden, what are you going to do about inflation? You've got it.
Preventing World War III.
He's on a roll.
Yeah, things seem to roll downhill, don't they? But leave it to leftist media to mask the truth. I mean, Joe Biden out trying to buy votes by handing out money and adding billions to the deficit. That's good news.
Good news right now, David, for some 8 million people who could become automatically eligible because the Department of Education already has their income information.
Tonight, President Biden offers relief for millions of Americans burdened with federal student loans.
The constitutionality of Biden forgiving student loans, well, that's just an aspect that's completely ignored by the big three networks, who also didn't feel the need to air this clip.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
You think that statement from last year might be somewhat newsworthy, but it just brings up a whole bunch of questions that leftists don't want to ask. CNN this week shows us once again that it's far better to cover up facts so you can push an agenda.
We're very aware of not stigmatizing it as just a gay man's disease, just like HIV was in the 80s and 90s.
Men who have sex with men and transgender people do make up the majority of monkeypox cases right now, which is why they are being prioritized with the limited vaccine supply. However, monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted infection.
It's not a sexually transmitted infection, huh? Love how the follow the science crowd avoids truth, facts, evidence, and science. I mean, who is this horrible, probably old, straight white man that's linking to evidence that monkeypox is a sexually transmitted infection that's overwhelmingly transmitted by gay men? Who is this Stephen Thrasher?
From a practical standpoint, I would offer for now that when 98 or 99% of people getting it are gay men, it's like, it's because we're having sex with each other. Like that is the mode of transmission.
Oh, he's a biracial gay man who's the past winner of the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association Journalist of the Year Award.
So if the Biden administration wants its outreach to be a success, celebrating while educating without discriminating is the only way to approach it.
Darn it, his voice just doesn't fit the narrative. It's best for the leftist networks to avoid mentioning it. Just like the Nets waited 3 months to report that Democrat Nancy Pelosi's husband Paul was arrested and charged with DUI. But now that he's been sentenced, they finally decided to, briefly mention that harsh sentence.
Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, pleaded guilty today to a DUI charge in California. And the State Highway Patrol released video of his arrest back in May. The 82-year-old businessman avoided more jail time and will instead serve 1 day in a court work program. An interlock ignition device will be kept on his car. He's also will be on probation for 3 years.
You know what also might take 3 years is for NBC to give the story any coverage. None. Zip. Still to this day. Not really that surprising from NBC News, is it? Also not so surprising is we do have to wrap things up. I'm Eric Shiner from MRC-TV, asking you to visit the MRC Store and shop for some great conservative gear. Head over to MRCTV.org for the latest in news, culture, and videos. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos on the platforms that let you see us. Also, be sure to check us out on Rumble, especially, huh? We'll be back next week with more leftist media lunacy.